So Larry Kudlow on Fox News claims that Joe Biden is in trouble, but every claim he makes in his presentation is a blatant lie. Let's check it out today on today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So once again, I've been spending time in the alternate universe of Fox News, and boy, has Larry Kudlow delivered a whopper, or a bunch of whoppers. Let's check this one out.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. Let me begin with this.
That's about the only true thing he says this entire segment. Let's keep watching.
Joe Biden is in a heap of trouble. He faces bribery charges at home that are based on fact, not fiction.
Okay, let's start with this. Bribery charges at home based on fact, not fiction. Well, not exactly. In fact, there have been no charges that have been leveled against Joe Biden. And independent sources find that these claims are based on nothing more than innuendo. I mean, remember the fact that Joe Biden, just remember this, Joe Biden, unlike Donald Trump, released all his finances, released all his tax returns. He wasn't hiding them like Donald Trump. He had nothing to hide. And interestingly enough, this supposed whistleblower who claims that he has knowledge about the bribery of Joe Biden, turns out to be an arms trafficker with Iran. Very credible source. But let's keep watching what Larry has to say.
No Hillary Clinton campaign made-up story. This is senior whistleblowers and bank accounts from the Treasury and audio tapes that have surfaced from FBI reports, even though the FBI has tried desperately to cover them up.
Okay, this is the claim that they have. Number one, again, there are no audio, there are no bank accounts. There's one supposed whistleblower who, again, is a spy. But remember, by the way, this FBI who they keep attacking, who is supposedly standing up for Joe Biden, is led by, wait for it, a Trump appointee, Christopher Wray, who stated on the record in his testimony that he's a Republican. And it's absurd to think that he would be covering over for Joe Biden. But let's just keep watching this ridiculous video by Larry Kudlow.
Meanwhile, Mr. Biden has chosen to boycott the NATO dinner tonight, which is unheard of for a U.S. president, leading not only the largest country and the biggest military power in the alliance, but also its principal financier. He's saying no to Ukraine NATO membership. Okay, you may have a point there, but he's not even going to talk to Zelensky and the others about this decision.
Okay, once again, just non-stop lies. Biden met with Zelensky. So much for him boycotting the meetings and refusing to meet with him. He met with him. And not only that, despite the claims that Zelensky was unhappy with the decisions that we'd made, at the end of the summit, he stated that he thought the results of the summit were good. So much for him being upset. But let's keep watching this.
This bad boy behavior comes right after his Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, was caught on camera bowing and scraping before the number 2 Chinese communist.
Okay, let's just review this. Pointing out, by the way, that on her trip, Yellen was actually harshly critical of the Chinese and actually raised quite a bit of fuss over the fact that she was so strong in her words to them. And in terms of her bowing down, that's an interesting use of a camera. And generally speaking, when leaders will meet other leaders, they will try to be at least respectful, which is clearly what she was doing there, and is quite the contrast from some of these other images where you might recognize the people, one being here, Donald Trump bowing down to Kim Il-sung of North Korea. Kim Il-jung. Or here, this ridiculous picture of him at the orb in Saudi Arabia, or his pathetic display at the Helsinki summit with Vladimir Putin. But oh yes, let's talk about Janet Yellen bowing down while she shook their hands. Let's keep watching.
So let me get this right. we're bowing to the Chinese and boycotting our allies. Does anybody get that? Does anybody?
How are we boycotting our allies? Reminder, Trump is the one who actually imposed sanctions on that enemy of ours, Canada, while Joe Biden was praised by Mitch McConnell for the leadership he's provided in leading our allies in responding to the Ukraine crisis. But yes, he's abandoning our allies. Let's keep watching.
I understand that. Mr. Biden faces a slumping economy and a sticky inflation problem as real wages keep sinking, and the middle-class, blue-collar working folks are in full revolt.
Okay, again, let's review this. We have an economy which is doing stronger than anyone expected, with the gross domestic product exceeding forecasts. Inflation is down to 3% now. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, real wages are actually going up for most American workers. So again, every word he says is a lie. Let's keep watching.
Witness the UAW leadership, which is skewering President Biden because of severe cuts to auto workers' wages resulting from Biden's radical climate policies. UAW President Shawn Fain blasted Biden climate policies, and I'll quote, "There have been clear winners and losers, and the same people who've always won, the corporate elite and the billionaire class, seem to think they can keep calling the shots." And
okay, let's talk about labor, because Biden is justifiably proud of the fact that he is the most pro-labor president in a long time, probably since FDR. Well, Biden recently spoke to the AFL-CIO and received a very positive response there. And for those who doubt anything I'm saying, by the way, I'm of course going to link to all the articles that I'm basing my arguments on down below. But the UAW is critical right now, but the big reason is that they're getting ready to enter negotiations with the big three here in Detroit, and they have very legitimate concerns. Their biggest concern is the fact that they gave up and made sacrifices to help the big three survive in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, but yet they have not benefited from the bounce back of the industry, and they want a piece of that. So that's the big issue. They are concerned over the fact that, in general, electric vehicles will require fewer workers than internal combustion engines, but that concern is minimal compared to their issue with the lack of wage increases that they've gotten while the big three have prospered. But let's keep watching.
Quote, remember, Joe Biden is supposed to be the union president. Now, a study by the liberal left Good Jobs First, a group that's funded by labor unions, concluded that EV plants will each receive more than $1 billion a year from the U.S. government with no requirement to pay good wages to production workers, end quote. Actually, the badly misnamed Inflation Reduction Act that the UAW opposes is really a massive Green New Deal climate giveaway to big corporations, to Biden political donors, and various Democratic woke and DEI interest groups. It's also a fiscal fiasco.
It's also something aimed at trying to save our planet from extinction, but that's neither here nor there. Let's keep watching.
Recently, the Joint Tax Committee has re-estimated the cost of all the massive greenie tax credits from a $400 billion price tag, big enough, to a $790 billion price tag. The Penn-Wharton economic model has put it at $1.2 trillion. Anyway, House Republicans wisely have tried to pare back this monstrosity. So far, they haven't had much luck.
Okay, but let me be clear about something. He's right about this. This is one thing he's telling the truth about. It is actually costing a lot more than was originally projected, but that's a good thing. That means that there are more people taking advantage of the tax credits than anybody predicted, that there's a faster shift going on to a new green economy from the old oil-based economy. And the results of this have been dramatic, despite the fact that Trump talked repeatedly about the fact that he was going to bring back manufacturing in the United States. It's actually been Joe Biden who's done it, between the investments of the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Semiconductor Act. I mean, check out this graph here where it shows manufacturing construction spending. Check it out over here. What happened after the Inflation Reduction Act was passed? Whoa! Okay, now just by way of comparison, Here's 2020. Here's 2016. Look at what happened during the former president. Did he have any manufacturing growth? No, but look at it under Joe Biden. It's produced results, and that's something that we should be happy about. We shouldn't be unhappy about that. But let's keep watching.
At the same time, the House did pass H.R. 1, which would have reopened the fossil fuel spigots through more drilling, leasing, permitting, pipelining, refining, and LNG exporting. And let's face it, the U.S. has the cleanest natural gas and oil, for that matter.
Okay, let's call this for what it is, which is a lie, because of course, there is no difference between oil and gas that the United States has versus what other countries have. It's science. I mean, there might be minor differences, but certainly not enough to make any major difference in terms of carbon release into the atmosphere. That being said, this idea that the United States has not been producing a lot of oil and gas is an absolute lie that I've debunked repeatedly in prior videos, and is a lie that the people on Fox News, particularly Kudlow, keep repeating and repeating. The U.S. actually is now a net exporter of oil, and we're actually producing more than we produced back during the glory days of Trump. So much for having to turn back on the spigots. And what's more, why are we producing so much oil and gas? Well, it's because of the fact that we subsidize oil and gas. So much for being outraged over subsidizing clean energy. We're busy subsidizing dirty energy to the tune of $5 trillion. You want to be outraged about something, be outraged about that. But no, it doesn't fit with their narrative. Let's keep watching.
For the last 10 years, U.S. carbon emissions have dropped 1.2 billion tons, by far the biggest carbon decline of any industrialized country.
Again, that's a good thing. We should be happy about that, right? We're reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, which is valuable considering the fact that for most of this century, we've been the largest producer of greenhouse gases. So you would hope that we'd be taking the lead in reducing our production. Let's keep watching.
China, India, Russia, and Saudi Arabia have led the way toward carbon increases.
Okay, now those are countries we want to be more like. Am I right about that? China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and I can't even remember the fourth one. Yes, those are all countries we want to be more like. Am I right about that? Maybe we should throw in North Korea while we're at it. But let's keep watching.
Now, the GOP wants to roll back subsidies, stop ESG and decarbonization banks and investment managers. And this would place fossils on a more even playing field with.
Now, again, they aren't talking about cutting back on subsidies for oil and gas production, number one. And number two, this attack on ESG is trying to stop investors from investing their own money the way they want to, trying to stop them from engaging in supposedly the free market. Whatever happened to freedom and capitalism? No, we're not for it if it doesn't meet with our ideological goals, does it? But let's keep watching.
Renewables for an all-of-the-above energy policy that would once again lead to American energy dominance around the world.
Again, we are becoming more dominant. We are the largest producer of gas and oil in the world, number one. And now we're actually starting to compete against China in green energy, where China was actually starting to get a lead. But let's keep watching.
Believe it or not, a recent study, this is so wonderful, a recent study from Joe Biden's own CEA and OMB shows that a 2.2 Fahrenheit degree increase in climate warming over the past 120 years has had a minuscule impact on American GDP.
Okay, he's right about that. It's had very little impact on gross domestic product. However, it's basically setting the world on fire. I mean, we've seen what's happening in Vermont with flooding. We've seen what's happening in Florida and throughout the Southwest with the heat. We've seen the wildfires in Canada and in California. I mean, what's it going to take for us finally to realize the damage that we're doing to the world that we're living in? And guess what? Gross domestic product is something that can be managed. The world's, though, we've only got one of those. So this is just one more example of them trying to downplay the impact of global warming on the lives that all of us are leading. I mean, I got to tell you, I've got asthma. It was a minor issue up until relatively recently. Now I continually need to use the breathing treatment because of the fact that the air quality is so bad as a result of the wildfires across the border in Canada, which are a direct result of global warming. But let's keep watching.
And did not stop progress in virtually every area of life. Another 2 Fahrenheit degree warming increase over the next 80 years, according to their study, will similarly have virtually no impact on the economy. That is the Biden CEA and OMB, but I don't think he ever talks to them. And
again, no problem with setting the world on fire, though. Yes, we might have a good economy, but nobody will be able to breathe the air. But let's keep watching.
I know he didn't read their report. Finally, American ingenuity and technological advances will make all these energy sources cheaper, cleaner, and more accessible if we just let free market policies proliferate.
Okay, once again, he claims that we want to let the free market work, but guess what? The free market is working, and he's right. American ingenuity is bringing down the cost of these sources of energy, particularly renewable energy. I mean, check this out. In Texas, clean energy is thriving. So what's the response of the Republicans in charge in state government? To try to stop it. I mean, here's an article about the Texas GOP's war on renewable energy. If they just let the free market operate, then guess what? Renewable energy would take over, but they're trying to stop that. So don't buy any of this BS about being in favor of the free market. They want to stop the free market from working. Let's keep watching.
And stop the top-down central planning that has so badly failed something weirdly called Bidenomics. You could figure out what that means, and our experts will.
So that's the video for you. And as you can see, literally every word this guy said is a lie. Or where he says truths, he uses them to make a point that is inconsistent with what the facts are. Well, I hope you found this helpful. As it turns out, I've had to debunk Kudlow before, so if you want to see another, check out this video over here. But in the meantime, let's hope for continued progress, and I'll see you next time.